Hello. Here we are again, fiddling the fiddler. No, not the fiddler on the roof. Fiddler in my studio. British People's League studio. I'll soon stare at you steady. There we go. How are you today? Did you have a good weekend? I can't say I miss doing these broadcasts. I feel an obligation. I'm proud to do them. But still, it's a strain. I have to keep on smiling. I read a book years ago called The Mask of Sanity. So I try and put on this mask of sanity on the Dinosaur News. Dinosaur News brought to you by the British People's League. We aim for 5 days a week, but we're dwindling down to about 3 days a week. See how things go. Anyway, here we are. A new month. This is June the 3rd, 2014. Those of you who follow steady know that I'm doing the very best I can to separate two aspects of my life right now. I filed nomination papers successfully yesterday, June the 2nd, at the Municipal Township Office, Minden Hills, Ontario, Canada, in Cottage Country. Candidates run independently of political parties. I think it's a good system. Whereas apparently in the motherland, in Britain, even local elections are linked with a political party. But in Ontario, and the small areas of Ontario, the candidates successful run and work as individuals, not politically affiliated. And that's a good thing. So their focus is due on the municipality. Oh well, when I grin in advance, you know there's a little story coming up. I just got off the phone before the taping of this Dinosaur News brought to you today. Just got off the phone with the Highlander newspaper. Now there's several Highlander newspapers in the world. So when you Google in, you go Highlander newspaper, Haliburton, Ontario. Highlander newspaper, Haliburton, Ontario. And they're a pretty good paper. They stick to local issues, which makes it nice. Without going into the world views, they stick in great detail to local issues with down-to-earth reporters. This is the boy who despises the big news media. The higher up they go, the less personal. It's as simple as that. I guess it's anything in life. The higher up you go, the less personal. In any case, I filed yesterday, so already there was contact from Moose FM radio and the Highlander online, and now a gal named Sue with the Highlander as a staff reporter just called me and grilled me nicely with a nice voice. I got the good part over with at the start. Going to keep the two matters separate. Running for Deputy Reeve for the Town Council. The elections aren't until October, but it's good to get your name in early and to get talked about. Keeping it separate from the British People's League is going to be hard for the news media to fathom, but it won't be hard for the public that knows me in Minden, that have met me on the streets all these years. I always walk to the post office box to check the mail for 20 years as a paralegal in the village. I gave a lot of freebies. The Law Society wouldn't allow us to have legal aid certificates, so I gave a lot of freebies to a lot of ordinary poor people. So when this Sue asked me about that, I said, well, I did that. That's my community service. And she asked questions, of course, and I had to emphasize over and over again to keep the two matters separate. Of course, the terminology and the words used on the British People's League website, the language is very strong, just as the United Kingdom Independent Party, UKIP, pretty strong language they used during the election, and they won the elections to get out of the European Parliament. Some, what you would call the right wing, the British right, said that UKIP are soft. I don't think they're soft. They got their message across. So here I've jumped from cottages in Central Cottage, Ontario country. British people, they've not bounced over to the UK. That's one thing I won't be able to squirm around, or I don't want to squirm around. I told Sue I'd take a tough stand for our British history and heritage here in Canada. And as I told her, there's a couple of coloured gals in town, work at outlets where I drop in from time to time, and they understand that John Beattie's about the immigration laws, not the individual person. And that's a simple fact. It's the immigration laws set up by the government that we argue with, etc. Well, you can imagine. It was a lengthy interview, about 20-25 minutes, into my past, my history, wild skinhead party in 1989, which, and I'll be honest, I was up here in the woods, I didn't even know what a skinhead was. Well, I couldn't stop the party halfway through. Not crying the blues, they had fun, they were good people, there was not one threat of an arrest. And we didn't allow any stiff-arm salutes at the time, etc. But anyway, that's way back then. And then covered my wife who passed away, working at the local hospital, Highland Crest, for quite a few years. And then my involvement with the Royal Canadian Legion at the first branch that opened up. So she really went into the past and the history. You'd think I was running for president. So, you know, in my middle ages, I could handle anything they threw at me, but the bit of gray hair gets a bit tiresome and causes a bit of twitchiness. The Highlander paper comes out in 2 days on Thursday. So that will be the 5th. One day before D-Day, 70th anniversary of D-Day and the beaches of Normandy. And I brought that up to her as well, that freedom of speech is what the war was technically supposed to be all about. So you can imagine how I feel. I just filed yesterday morning and the news outlets are already bang, bang. But the local ones, I'm keeping my fingers crossed, hope for the best, it won't be too bad. I mean, what the heck, if a person takes the time to run for a public office, I think they should be treated with respect. And some would say I was a bad boy in my young youth, but how many decades far back can we go? I mean, come on, 20 years as a paralegal in the court system, right here in the village of Minden, covering Minden Hills area and Haliburton County, Ontario. So we'll see what happens on Thursday. The bottom line is, people that know me as a person on the streets of Minden, even on a casual basis, are always very friendly to me. Always. On the streets. They know I'm a genuine people person. That's why I'm counting on the votes. So I think I've made a decision right now that after doing this video and mentioning the Minden election, and I've also put it on the British People's League homepage, the fact that I filed papers. And I'm going to leave it at that. From now on, the British People's League sponsoring Dinosaur News. The Dinosaur News will stick to what it was, its original purpose, to talk about our connections with the old white Commonwealth and our preference for white immigration, etc. There's a cute little thing on the budgeting and the rules, very strict rules, as they found out in Britain with the different parties. The same here. You have to account for any dime donations, etc. And I would have to put in the declaration at some point after the election's over any free time I gave to my Minden Hills campaign for Deputy Reeve on these very Dinosaur News shows. Well, there isn't much. Peanuts. And then you have to give the equivalent as a donation. You have to cover it as a donation, the equivalent time spent. Well, there's the server that's paid $15 a month, The British People's League domain page is about $60 a year. So the bottom line is, when I break it down for June, July, August, September, October, the election's late October. So 5 months, and I've given maybe an hour's time on the YouTubes. So what do I owe? I'll have to figure that out down the road. I might owe 1/16, maybe $25 will cover it. But I hope I'm not disappointing friends of the British People's League, and I know a lot of friends of the British People's League, especially in our blind copy list, are very thrilled that I am running as an independent candidate. They don't even put that on the ballot box here. No, it doesn't even read independent candidate. It's just your name, who you are, and that's what you got. I love it. No fancy titles on top, just you as a person. I love it. That's the sign of my front lawn, just John Beattie. That's who we are, isn't it? It's who we are. Let's see, what else? Well, the lady asked me a lot of questions, personal questions. I explained how my family were all terrified, the fact that I stand up for white people. Talked of my passed away wife, Hazel, when she worked at the Highland Crest. She was well liked. I was doing great in the Royal Canadian Legion until the Wild Party in 1989, where there were no arrests, no threat of arrest, but it still shook up the local Legion. I didn't go to the hearing. I didn't want to embarrass them. But the lady went into the past in the background. Oh, I imagine the summary of her article will be that no matter how hard Beattie tries to separate things, he's going to have a hard time. Well, I've done the best I can, and I can say it honestly that the main thrust of me running for a campaign in the local election is, those of you who live in the city still wouldn't quite get the picture unless you have a cottage. But unfortunately, whether it's around the globe or just up here, it's pretty well across Ontario. But the divide is there between the cottagers and the local people, and it's hurtful. Every now and then it comes to surface. Are the cottages getting preference? Are the locals getting preference? We've got to work together. That's my theme. Cottagers and locals have to work together. And then she asked why I suddenly decided to run at the particular point. Why did I choose to file the papers yesterday on the 2nd of June? Well, I scraped together the $100 out of my personal pension money, which I can't afford, but I just realized I've got to do it. I've got too many other bills coming in. And you have to pay that $100. It's not allowed to be a donation as such. It's $100 that has to come out of your own pocket. You can't start soliciting funds until after you're filed. I'm not going to solicit funds. If people out there want to donate, go for it. That's great. My email is listed. The other email, johnthecourtagent@bellnet.ca, johnthecourtagent@bellnet.ca, for the municipal election purposes. People who wish to donate can do so. I don't think there'll be too many donate openly to John Beattie. They'll vote for me though. Oh yes, I'm expecting I can win. There's 3 candidates, including myself. There's a lady that's been at the job for a while. There's a new type retired cottager, and then there's John Beattie. And frankly, I believe the vote will be split between the other 2 candidates, and I'll have enough of a solid block. It'll be close, but I really firmly believe I'll have enough of a solid block to squeeze right through the middle. Their vote will be split, and Beattie Boy intends to split right through the middle. Without a big donor campaign, without big money. 20 years on the streets is a long time. Many people know me. The first person suggested I run for the position of Deputy Reeve in Minden Hills. Those were the words. You're known by a lot of people, John. I said, well, why wouldn't I run, say, smaller scale, like there's wards, certain section and areas. You could be a ward person, a councillor. the answer to that, well, it was true. John, you're known by a lot of people. Now, overall, the whole voting area of Minden Hills, 15,000 people scattered out on the edges of Minden itself. I am wider known here and there and everywhere than I am in a specific ward. So that made sense too, and that's one of the main reasons. Plus, as Deputy Reeve, you could have a lot to say. And then the newspaper gal asked me why I didn't run for Reeve, and I said, well, that's a bit too much when I haven't run before in this election. And Deputy Reeve, you have a lot of say. You get a seat on the county council as well. Okay, so that pretty well is the message for today. What have I done in the past? Well, for the city council and for the taxpayers. A couple of years ago when they were finishing off the water tower, brand new water tower, they were over budget $250,000. Not $2.50, $250,000. I raved at the public meeting. I had to leave by noon. I was afraid somebody called the police. I was so mad. $250,000. I hollered out, why can't your insurance company cover your overdraft? Don't take it out on the taxpayers. The taxpayers are going to be billed for it. So the next day, one of the local newspapers just said a man in the audience said, and complained about $250,000 overdraw. A man in the audience. They knew damn well who it was. The town clerk was great. They published Beattie said this, that, and the other in protest. So they put my name in the official minutes of the meeting. So that's one of my proudest. I may not have been on little committees here and there, but my proudest was helping to shave off $250,000. They found it within a week. Oh, we found a way to shave it back off. We're okay. We're not over, but isn't that a coincidence? Squeaky wheel gets the grease. And the final touch on the Deputy Reeve run would be Johnny Cash's corny song, I Won't Back Down, and that's Beattie. I won't back down. I am not looking forward to aspects of my past being brought up, but what you see right now is what you got. This is me now today, 2014. What you see is what you got. Do the best I can for the taxpayers. But you're sitting in Britain watching the shows, our American friends, etc. Well, I guess it could give you a little incentive maybe to run locally in your areas. But I'm not going to be repeating anything to do with the municipal elections on these British People's League broadcasts, Dinosaur News. Any detailed reports, the blind list, who are my deep, deep good friends, they're entitled to get specifics on how the municipal campaign is going, but those are private emails. If you'd like to get on the list, well, I have to get to know you well, wouldn't I, over a period of time, but give it a try. BritishCanada@gmail.com. BritishCanada@gmail.com. I don't know what else I could add for today. We will try and get back at you tomorrow. It just depends how I feel. That's kind of arrogant, isn't it? But I'm not on salary, so I'm free to do as I wish. Okay? But I'm glad to share all of this with you, the audience. Thanks for tuning in. And we shall be back at you on June the 4th, if all goes well. Bye for now.